Hello and welcome to Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast number 62. Firstly, once again, my apologies for the delay to this week's show. Some of you may be aware through the Facebook page that the lovely Mrs. Theta Sigma was unwell yesterday and needed to rest properly. I'm pleased to say, though, that she's much better today and normal service has been resumed. So, in this week's show, following your feedback, in the third of our three-part series looking at some of the companions that the Doctor has met on his Big Finish adventures, we're looking at Erimem Teperim, and you don't want to know how many takes that took. This week's feedback comes from Andrew Marmot.
Come here, you scrumptious little beauty. A box?
Doctor, what is it?
I've got mail.
Said Andrew about last week's show, it was a cracking episode about a character I knew nothing about. Still not listened to many Big Finish stories, but now I'm thinking about episode 100. Some sort of greatest hits maybe? And iTunes is up to date with Facebook. Huzzah! Sounding good so far. Thanks for that, Andrew. In terms of Big Finish stories, while I'm by no means up to date, they are all amazing, brilliantly made, with superb casts. As for the 100th episode, thanks for your suggestion, Andrew, and I'm now forming the kernel of an idea. That said, I'm still open to suggestions, so please feel free to drop by Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast on Facebook or email me at the show's brand new email address, which is now respectthething@hotmail.com. Yep, that's a new email address for the show. So if you have any thoughts on the show, or if you'd like to leave any audio feedback, why not email me at respectthething@hotmail.com. And now, on with today's show.
I would wager, Doctor, that you did not expect anything like this when you first saw my chariot being chased.
Not really, no.
But I think the unexpected is something you are familiar with, am I right?
I was under the impression that Divine Pharaoh is always right.
I'm yet to actually be crowned, Doctor. But when I have been, I think I would do well to avoid sparring in word games with you.
Caroline Morris is a voice actor for Big Finish Productions, primarily portraying Erimem, companion of the Fifth Doctor. However, she's also appeared in other roles for Big Finish, including their Sapphire and Steel range. Morris originally comes from a background of live theatre, but after meeting Jason Hay Ellery at the Panopticon Sci-Fi convention and giving him her voiceover CD, she was invited to audition for the part of Erimem. Originally intended as a one-off role, after just the first day of recording with Morris, Gary Russell liked how the character of Erimem was working out. Russell arranged with writer Ian McLaughlin to have the character return, and Morris found herself in the role of a returning companion.
Escort us to the palace, Antronak. We have a great deal to do, but this is not the place to do it.
Erimem Teperim, and I still couldn't do that in one take, so I'll stick to Erimem from now on, is a princess of ancient Egypt. Born in 1419 BC, she's the daughter of Pharaoh Amenhotep II and a companion of the Fifth Doctor. She first appears in the 2001 audio drama The Eye of the Scorpion, set in 1400 BC. She was supposed to take to the throne after her father's death, but there was controversy about the throne passing to a woman. It was in the midst of this intrigue that the Fifth Doctor and Peri arrive in Egypt. The Doctor realised that according to history, Amenhotep was succeeded by Thutmose IV, and feared that Erimem was going to die in a revolution to prevent her becoming pharaoh. Erimem did survive the events of Eye of the Scorpion, however, and realising that she wasn't destined to rule Egypt, decided to leave for Greece. But Peri persuades the Doctor to take Erimem aboard the TARDIS, as she was no longer required to play any further role in history. Erimem was raised as a warrior princess of ancient Egypt, and despite being just a young woman, had both the royal charisma and the strength that entailed. She relied on Peri and the Doctor a great deal, though, as her knowledge of the world, let alone the universe, was limited, and her travels in the TARDIS were a constant source of amazement to her. However, when called on, she was more than capable of taking care of herself. She led armies in ancient Egypt, and when the TARDIS crew landed in Paris in 1626, becoming embroiled in a plot to kill Queen Anne, Erimem was able to inspire and lead the combined forces of both King Louis VIII and Cardinal Richelieu's guards against the English forces of the Duke of Buckingham in the story The Church and the Crown. In the Council of Nicaea, she even stands against the Doctor on matters of principle that she felt were important. Erimem parted ways with the Doctor and Peri in The Bride of Peladon when she accepted the marriage proposal of Peladon's king. She explained to her companions that she was genuinely fond of the king and the planet, and that it had always been her destiny to rule.
When we are safe in Thebes, I will answer all your questions. Just get me there.
As well as appearing in the Big Finish audio dramas, the character of Erimem also featured in the Telos novella Blood and Hope by Ian McLaughlin. In that story, the Doctor, Peri and Erimem travelled to the time of the American Civil War, where because slavery still existed, some people had a real problem with Erimem's dark skin. A novel featuring Erimem, The Coming of the Queen, also by Ian McLaughlin and Claire Bartlett, and set before the events of Eye of the Scorpion, was published by Big Finish in 2005. McLaughlin tweeted in April 2011 that Erimem would be appearing in a forthcoming episode of the Kerides The Thinker series on Imagination Theta. The episode, Return of the Queen, aired on February the 19th, 2012, with Christine Moser playing the role of Erimem.
The trouble with computers, of course, is that they're very sophisticated idiots.
Yes, indeed, Doctor, you're right there. And after some problems with my Outlook email account, I've made some changes, and as I mentioned earlier, if you would like to email the show, the address is now respectthething@hotmail.com. And I'd love to hear from you with your thoughts on the show, your thoughts about show 100, and even your audio feedback if you'd like to leave some.
Oh, goodbye, my dear chap. I must say I've had the time of my lives.
And that's all for this week. As ever, my thanks for listening, and don't forget, as well as the new email address, respectthething@hotmail.com, you can also feed back to me on Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast on Facebook too. Next week, continuing the series of reviews on the Destiny of the Doctor series, I'll be looking at number 8, Enemy Aliens.
Someone playing Rossini! Yes, that might be it, elaborated the Doctor. Someone's always playing Rossini. He's a hugely popular component of the light orchestral repertoire. We need to check concert houses, nightclubs, jazz venues, anywhere someone might be playing Rossini. His eyes glinted. Let's make like blue-bottomed bluebottles, shall we? Helpless to resist, Charlie picked up her cavalry officer's heels and followed the Doctor as he galloped off into the West End night.
Oh.
The next thing Charlie knew, pretty much, it was morning, in an unfamiliar flat on an unfamiliar couch. Well, where the devil... Oh, will you stop it with the Rossini?
Sorry. Did I wake you? Didn't realise I was doing it. Think about that tune. Once it's in your head...
It's hard to get it out, I know.
Well, it's your fault, miss. You were humming it in your sleep, best part of the night. Suppose I must have just picked it up, like I seem to have picked up... you.
Excuse me? You've picked up no one, sir.
Oh, Lord, I didn't mean... No, sorry. Don't you remember getting here? From the music hall?
Wherever here is, no.
Just my little old bachelor flat in Portland Place. Look, that's a broadcasting house.
And the little old bachelor is?
Hilary Hammond. At your service.
And number 9, Night of the Whisper.
Someone strode through the smoke, a tall figure sweeping through the chaos. Wide-brimmed fedora, obsidian black cloak billowing out behind. One of Wolfsbane's men rushed forward, gun up. The cloaked stranger lifted a leather-gloved hand. Cobalt blue energy sparked from the newcomer's fingers, hitting the heavy in the chest, knocking him back. The guard was dead before his body thumped down beside Rose. He hadn't just been shot, he'd been desiccated. His withered corpse smoked, all sallow cheeks and wrinkled skin. A shadow fell over Rose. Stomach knotting tighter, she looked up, straight into a featureless mask. "Justice will be served," the stranger hissed. There was nowhere to run. Looming over Rose, the masked man raised his arm. Death-dealing fingers pointed at her. Screwing up her eyes, Rose waited for the blast. "Justice for all."
Miss Tyler, this is...
Inspector George Dixon, the newcomer announced. New, Scotland Yard.
From Earth.
Oblivious to the Commissioner's glare, Inspector Dixon plonked himself on a chair opposite Rose. "I'm helping the locals investigate this whisper bloke. Saw him, didn't you?" Rose leaned in. "Yeah, at the club." Dixon mirrored her. "Fantastic. What was it like?"
I was asking Miss Tyler about her life before New Vegas. We don't have any records.
"Course, silly me." The inspector clicked his fingers and snatched up McNeil's datapad. His fingers ran across the touchscreen for just a few seconds. "Found her. Full rundown of Miss Tyler's movements for the last 5 years." He passed the pad to McNeil. "Must have been a glitch. Happens, doesn't it? Files get deleted, emails lost."
But she has a link to the Whisper.
"She does?" asked the inspector. "He attempted to attack her, nothing more."
We don't know that.
"I do. Checked her records twice." The inspector leant forward, hitting a button on the pad. "As you can see, Miss Tyler had a problem on Grachic Major. Need to talk to her about that." McNeil's shoulders sagged. "In private? Earth business."
We'll need a full statement.
"Leave it to me, Chief." McNeil turned and stalked out of the interview room. Rose went to speak, but the inspector shook his head. He slipped his hand into his jacket pocket. "That's better. Don't want any eavesdroppers."
Thank you for listening to Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all copyright and property of the BBC, and no infringement is intended.